Most people look at this tree and see the end of a story. A tree that survived floods, droughts, fires, and storms, and still never grew fruit, never gave shade, never became anything people could point to and say, "See, it worked." But here is what nobody tells you about people like this tree. Their story was never about the fruit. Arjun was 31 years old, and by every measure society had given him, he was failing. 3 failed businesses, a broken engagement, a bank account that saw more withdrawals than deposits, and a family that had quietly stopped asking about his plans at dinner. He wasn't lazy. That was the part nobody understood. Arjun worked harder than anyone in the room. He just hadn't won yet. And there is a very specific kind of pain that lives in that gap between effort and result, between trying and arriving. It doesn't feel like failure. It feels like invisibility, like you're screaming in a room full of people and no one turns around. The people around him had a word for what he was doing. They called it not knowing when to stop. His mother cried quietly in the kitchen. His old friends had jobs, families, stability. His neighbor, a man who had never risked anything in his life, drove a new car. And Arjun sat in his room and asked himself the same question every person who refuses to quit eventually has to face. Am I strong, or am I just too broken to accept reality? Here's the question the world never asks about people who never give up. Not will they succeed? Not are they being realistic? The real question is, what is being built inside them while the outside world shows nothing? Because giving up and persisting are not just choices about outcome. They are choices about identity. Every single time Arjun didn't quit, something happened inside him that couldn't be measured. His fear of failure got smaller, not because he stopped failing, but because he kept surviving it. His judgment sharpened. Each attempt taught him something that no classroom, no mentor, no book could have. His character deepened. He became someone who could sit with uncertainty and not collapse. And this is what the world never puts on a highlight reel. The internal architecture, the invisible growth, the person being forged while the results are still not showing, and does not become a blade in one strike. It becomes a blade because it endures every single strike. Then came the day that tests everyone. Not the dramatic fall, not the big cinematic breakdown, the quiet one. The Tuesday afternoon when nothing dramatic happened. Arjun just ran out of reasons. He had no speech left, no motivational quote that worked anymore, no maybe tomorrow energy. He just sat on the floor and felt empty. And here is something important I need you to hear. This moment is not weakness. This moment is the turning point most people never recognize, because they're too busy running from it. The people who never give up don't quit during the dramatic falls. They get tested in the quiet, ordinary emptiness. When no one is watching, when there is no adrenaline, when the story has no momentum, this is where character is actually decided. He didn't feel inspired. He didn't have a breakthrough. He was not suddenly okay. He just decided in that small, invisible moment that sitting on the floor was not who he was going to be. Not because of hope, because of identity. This is not me, he thought. That was all. 2 words. No fireworks. Just 2 words and he got up. Let me tell you what years of not quitting does to a person, and I mean this in a way nobody talks about. It changes your relationship with fear. Most people live their whole lives making decisions based on what they are afraid of losing. The job they hate, because losing it is scarier than staying. The relationship that's wrong, because being alone feels worse. The dream they have that they never try, because failing is too painful to risk. But the person who's already lost everything and gotten back up, fear loses its grip. Not because they're reckless, because they have evidence now. Personal, lived, irreplaceable evidence. I have been at rock bottom, and I survived, and I rebuilt. So what exactly are you threatening me with? This is not arrogance. This is freedom. The person who never gives up eventually becomes, almost accidentally, one of the most fearless people in any room. Not because they planned to be, but because fear kept showing up, and they kept walking through it, and slowly they stopped flinching. There is a stillness that develops in people like this. You've seen it in someone. That person who has clearly been through something, and it didn't make them bitter. It made them settled. Like a tree that has survived enough storms that it no longer argues with the wind. It just stands. Here's what most success stories skip. The shift usually doesn't look like success. It looks like a small, humble, almost invisible new beginning. Arjun didn't start a company this time. He started teaching, one evening a week, in a community center, to 12 people who were exactly where he had been lost, trying invisible. He didn't know this was the thing. He just did it because he had something real to give now, something that couldn't be faked or borrowed. The knowledge of someone who went through the fire and still came out themselves. And something strange started happening. People came back. Then they brought others. Then someone wrote about it. Then someone called the compound effect of years of quiet persistence. It was never linear. It was invisible for a long time. And then suddenly it was everywhere. This is the pattern. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The person who never gave up didn't succeed because they were lucky. They succeeded because they became the kind of person that success could actually stick to. You can hand success to someone who hasn't been forged by persistence and watch it fall away because they don't have the interior to hold it. Arjun didn't get lucky. Arjun became someone, and then the world responded to who he had become. Remember the tree from the beginning? The one that looked dead? Here is what they discovered about trees that survive extreme conditions. Their roots go deeper than any other tree in the forest, not because the roots were special to begin with, but because the difficulty forced them down. Every drought pushed those roots further in search of water. Every storm made them grip harder. Every cold winter taught the tree to store more. The struggle was not a detour from the tree's growth. The struggle was the growth. You cannot see roots. You cannot measure depth. You cannot weigh resilience, comma. But on the day the storm comes that breaks every other tree in the forest, the one that was tested the most is the last one standing. I want to speak directly to you now. If you are in the middle of a season that has no results to show, if you are doing the work and the world is not responding yet, if people in your life have stopped asking about your dream because they've quietly given up on your behalf, I want you to know something. What is happening to you right now is not punishment. It is preparation. The version of you that will eventually arrive at the life you are building cannot be who you are today. You have to become that person first, and becoming costs something. It costs time. It costs comfort. It costs the approval of people who don't understand the roots they cannot see. But here is what no one can take from you. Every day you chose not to quit. You built something inside yourself that is permanent. Your character, your courage, your credibility with yourself. And the day will come, and it will come, when the world finally sees what the ground always knew. You were never dying. You were growing down. The people who never give up don't just reach their destination. They become the kind of person worth arriving as.
Subscribe for more stories like this.